Hi, my name is Trez Burton, and right now I want to talk about affordable housing and what it really is. I'll start off by making a point I heard made by Rush Limbaugh not too long ago, and that is affordable housing is not quote unquote affordable. What it really is I'll give an example. Let's say you pay $1,500 to stay in an apartment complex, and you for the unit you rent, you pay $1,500 a month for. A low income family rents a unit identical to yours, but they pay $750 a month. It's not that their apartment is worth less than yours or affordable. What it is the other half is being subsidized by the state. In other words, taxpayers. In other words, you. So you're paying your $1,500 rent, and indirectly you're picking up the tab for your low income neighbors' rent. So congratulations, you should feel good about that. You're doing your part. Uh, okay, so with that explained, that affordable housing is not what you would really consider affordable in a true sense. I want to explain something called COA we have in New Jersey, and that stands for Council on Affordable Housing. And what that means is to build an apartment complex in New Jersey, you have to include a certain number of units for low income families who will receive subsidies to stay in that complex. So even if, let's say, it's a higher end complex, or it's in a better town than what you would import these families from, they can't really afford to live there. But with the subsidy, they get to live among people who busted their asses to live in this better place, this nice complex in this good town. Sounds good, right? Sounds rosy, just like everything else liberal politicians propose. When honestly, it's just another vote buying gimmick. Something to, they need to pass out candy every few cycles to keep their voters loyal and ignorant. And affordable housing is just another one of those goodies to give to lower income constituents to keep them blind to the big liberal lie. So it sounds like a good thing to take a family who would otherwise stay in a bad neighborhood and give them a chance to stay somewhere better. Sounds like a good thing, right? Because the way it's said is, they deserve it. Everyone deserves to live somewhere nice. Just like a few years back, everyone deserved to own a home. And we see how that ended with the housing bubble. Whether you could afford it or not, just putting people in homes, and doesn't end well. Well, this story doesn't end well either, because when you take, okay, the argument is that everyone deserves to live somewhere nice, which that's fine if you work for it. But low income families, they all right, they deserve it. So you, I'll use myself for an example. I grew because this actually happened. This is how I seen firsthand the how low income housing is a bad idea and why people protested. I grew up in Newark, a town where, and I'll specify, I grew up in '80s Newark. It was pretty bad. The way it looked is the town was still torn apart from the late '60s riots. So up and down the main strips, Springfield Avenue, Clinton Avenue, you could see where businesses used to be and where they were burned down, and where vacant lots where businesses once stood. You could see where the town was ripped apart. And growing up, I've seen robberies and rapes and shootings and it was just 80s Newark was. I mean, especially once crack hit, it just really took a turn for the worse. But you know, I was a kid, not in control of my situation because no kid can help the situation they're born into. But that changes the second you're grown. The second you grow up, that's in your hands, and you decide whether you want something better or not. So, I always got good grades, and I was all I had both my parents. My father was tough, hardworking man, and I had them as I had my parents as examples, and I knew that that wasn't going to be my entire life. So I worked hard, and I was able to get myself out of that. And my family, the family that I'm raising, didn't grow up around that kind of crime because that's the name of the game in America: advancement. All the power's in your hands. So when you tell me a person who worked my way out of a bad neighborhood into a better situation, someone who's worked for it, my wife and I, we no nothing from the state, no, didn't get it, didn't want it. When you tell me that another family just deserves to be moved somewhere better, how fair is that? Is that fair to me? When I worked my way out of it, how do I warm up to some I don't know, some jackleg politician telling me that another family in the same situation that I grew up in just deserves government money to be moved somewhere better? Come on. I mean, if you want something better, it's out there for you, but you got to work for it. You don't deserve shit. I mean, just straight up, you don't deserve anything. Not from my point of view. It's out there for you. If anything you want is out there for you if you're willing to work on it. But don't tell me that these families deserve to be moved to a better neighborhood, because and I'll tell you why. But first, let me hit on this. In the 90s, as a younger man, I was a Democrat. I was, I guess I bought into the liberal lie. I didn't know anything different at the time. So as a young man in the 90s, new to adulthood, new to the workforce, I would see protests, whether on the news or whether outside, where people would be protesting having low-income housing built in their neighborhoods. Now, of course, that was reported as being racist because by and large these were white homeowners who lived in nice towns, and towns aren't just nice or bad. The people there make the town nice or bad. The people who live there decide what the town's going to be. It could be clean, it could be filthy. That depends on the people. So, and it was said that these white folks were racist and just didn't want to live around minorities. And I don't know what I made. I don't know what I made of it back then when I heard this, but I do remember it. And I just want to say, it is in no way racist to not want low-income housing in your town, because I'll tell you like this. You would think that when these politicians are telling you that these people deserve something better, deserve a chance to live in a nice town, it is assumed that the new environment, that the family you move will adapt to the new, better environment. That's not what happens. I can tell you that what happens is when you move people from these places where there's nothing but destruction, these people bring those habits with them. I mean, when you can't move a person from a place where people just leave garbage wherever they use something. They just they leave in food bags and soda cans and bottles and whatever other trash that from something they use. They just leave it right anywhere, and where people throw garbage, and you have just ripped bags of garbage, and you got people hanging out, and just all these illiterate teenagers cussing and smoking and drinking and leaning on people's cars. And you can't take a person from a place where everything I just described, that's the norm. When you take those people and put them in a new environment, they bring all those destructive habits to the new environment. So to make a long story short, you don't upgrade the person, they downgrade the neighborhood. So I fully understand those protests now. These people, and one, because a home is an investment, and when you buy a home, you don't just buy the home, you're buying that neighborhood. So you invest your money in a home, you want the value to go up. Now let's say you buy a home, and then 3 years later, your mayor, your city council, they're proposing ideas about building low-income housing. And the kind of people that they're going to move in when they say low-income housing. Now, it's not like most people would say that. Most people, as everything now is racial, but these things are more behavior and mentality based more so than color. Because I live in a mixed community, and they're Indian families, Italian families. I've seen some Asians around here, white folks, a few black families, and we all have a mutual respect for each other, because we all see each other leave in the morning. We see each other dropping kids off and picking kids up and coming home from work. And let me tell you, hardworking people have a mutual respect for other hardworking people. That's just what it is. We respect each other. We speak in the morning. I mean, and race is not anyone's concern. It's behavior. It's based on your behavior. Because I'm just as black as anyone else. And you know what? I get treated how I act. No one mistreats me. I give respect, and I get it. So, I don't buy into I've never been anyone's victim. Not in the sense that you see blacks always whining for this and that, and white liberals convincing us that we deserve things and all that we're being mistreated. No. When someone protests low income housing being built in their community, it's not that they don't want to live around minorities. They don't want to live around destructive behavior. Think about this. Why would anyone want to import people who are going to bring their community down? Because when you see how their community looked, when you see how they destroyed their own communities, well, why the hell would you import them into your community? Because common sense would say that eventually your community is going to look like the one that they left. And it's unfair to people like me who work hard to live where I live now. If my wife and I, we bust our ass to live somewhere nice, and then the government just takes people, tell them they deserve to live where I live, and now everything that I worked hard to escape, I have to deal with all over again. People who throw garbage and hang out, and that's everything my wife and I worked hard to escape. And the government just pretty much mandated that I have to live around this, because they mandated that you have to put low income housing to put up an apartment complex. And so now you have it where you're paying damn near $2,000 to live, to live somewhere where certain behavior doesn't go on, certain habits don't exist there. I don't know. Are you helping them or are you hurting us? I think the answer is B. You're hurting us because you don't upgrade those families. You downgrade communities. And it is not racist or elitist or anything else to not want that destruction in your town. Why would you want to work hard and live around that? And no, they don't deserve to live somewhere better. You want it, you work for it, just like the other people who live in nice towns. If you want something better, the opportunity is out there. I mean, this is America. You write your own ticket here. So no, I don't feel bad for you. And because by and large, the families that they move in who qualify for these programs, they're black families by and large. But hey, I don't feel bad for them. I mean, work your way out of it like I did. You can call me Uncle Tom, Uncle Jake, call me whatever the hell you want to. That's how I feel about low income housing. Leave that filth where it is. If those people are okay with filth, then let them wallow in it. Because if they ever wanted it to change, they would change it. A neighborhood is not just by default good or bad, clean or filthy. The people who live there make it good or bad. The people who live there decide whether it's going to be clean or filthy, whether it's going to be crime ridden, whether you want graffiti all over the place. The people who live there decide that. So there is no reason on earth to feel bad for people or tell them that they deserve to live somewhere better. No, you don't. Because even in spite of income, because I'm going to say something my mother said. Poor doesn't mean filthy. Poor or it doesn't have to. Poor does not have to mean filthy. Because there were poor families in earlier decades. I'm sure when, first generation Italians and Irish and or whoever else, past generations, they were poor, but you know what? They weren't filthy. People being poor meant you work that much harder to maintain what you have. That's what poor people did in earlier generations. They just worked harder to maintain what they have because they didn't have much. But I guess poor is synonymous with filth now. And, and I don't feel bad because the people, I mean, again, I grew up in it. I understand that destructive mentality. I lived in it. I lived around it. I grew up in it, and I decided I didn't like it. That's not what I wanted for myself. And when I was able to change it, I did. So, again, and it's not your color, and I don't just mean physical filth. I mean mental filth. You don't want to live around that either. I mean, because it's a mentality. It's not your color that people don't want living around them. It's not your race being protested. It is your destructive mentality that's being protested, and that's what people don't want to live around. So, hey, that's my take on affordable housing. I'm against it. Love me or hate me for it, but thanks for listening. I'm Trez Burton.